Hello wonderful humans. Today we're going to be talking about mental health while doing a PhD. All the fun topics on this channel. But it's important and it's something I've covered before. I've covered social anxiety while travelling before, so I will put a little card up for that video if you want to go check that out. It's actually the first video I did on my channel, which is like a bold start video, I feel. I'm not going to lie to you, I don't feel qualified to talk about this subject. I don't feel that I'm someone who deals with my mental health that well. I just deal with it as best I can. At the moment, it's kind of rubbish, my mental health. It's not doing great. But I wanted to make this video because I think this is something that needs to be talked about more, especially the kind of systematic mental health problems that so many PhD people face. And we need to talk about it and help each other through it and try and help the systems to change so that it isn't such a widespread problem, because clearly there is something systematic going on that causes PhD people to have a higher rate of mental health. And as soon as you type PhD and mental health into Google, you get article after article about there being a crisis and this and that, but no one's actually changing anything. And it kind of makes me a bit angry, because in theory we're meant to be these people who have dedicated our life to learning, and we're all meant to be fairly intelligent and rational and logical and be able to work through arguments, and yet we can't help our own community with something like systematic mental health problems. There are so many issues in academia, I'm not going to lie to you, but that's one that really pisses me off, because I just think as a society we need to get better at caring for people with mental health problems, because we have a habit of just shutting them in a corner. It's getting way better now, but certainly when I was growing up, you didn't talk about it, you didn't mention them, and I didn't grow up that long ago. I'm talking 10 years ago when I was at school. Nobody would really talk about this stuff, or it was a big stigma around it. There's less of a stigma now for certain people. I think there are still generations where it's a huge stigma. I think I'm very lucky I'm in a generation where it is more talked about, but it still makes me angry that not many people are actually doing things to change the situation. We're just expecting everybody to kind of do it off their own backs, and there needs to be more of a societal change. But I'm getting off my soapbox now, putting that in a corner. I'm going to get back to why you actually came to this video. This is a problem that faces people in academia for a variety of reasons that I'm not going to go into, but if you're interested, the articles will be below. I have just slightly changed the setup because I was getting blinded in that corner, so hopefully you can still see me quite well, and I'm not squinting quite as much, because I feel like I'm squinting so much right now. I have depression and social anxiety. Sometimes one's worse than the other. I think that's quite normal, but they are something I've both dealt with for most of my life, now that I look back on it. That's sort of the perspective I'm coming at this from. I'm not coming from a professional perspective, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a clinical psychologist, I am just someone doing a PhD who deals with mental health on a more long-term basis. It's not been triggered by the PhD, this is something that's been happening for a long time for me. I think the reality of doing a PhD, especially a humanities PhD, is you are going to spend 80% of your time working alone. It could be even higher than that if you really don't put yourself out there and get involved with your department. But the majority of your time, you're going to be working by yourself. You're going to be researching, writing, even doing things like abstracts, applying for funding. All of this is very solitary work. Yes, you can work in spaces that surround you with other PhD people and you might have little chats, but fundamentally when it gets down to it, you're doing it all yourself. And I think this is one of the reasons why PhD people tend to suffer from mental health, because there isn't that community to fall back on, not to actually help you get your work done in a very direct way. It's not like when you're at school or in an office and you're struggling with a project and it's just all getting a bit overwhelming. You can literally delegate tasks. You can't do that with a PhD, there's no one to delegate your stuff to. So it can get quite overwhelming, it can get quite stressful, it can get quite lonely. And because of that, people's mental health doesn't do the best, because you have to be putting yourself out there to kind of do anything, and that can be quite scary. So that's why I think PhD people struggle with mental health. It is a completely my observation, but there's my 2 cents on the subject. My experience has been overall very positive. I do want to clarify that. The last 5 months, my mental health has been pretty good. It's only recently it has dipped a little bit. I think part of the reason I was doing okay with my mental health is I've been in therapy for 2-3 years. I highly recommend, if you feel you can, talk to your friends, talk to a therapist, talk to anybody you think could help you with your mental health. That is my number one recommendation. So what do I do to help my mental health as a PhD student? And bear in mind, this is what works for me. That doesn't mean it works for you. When I can feel myself slipping into depression, and that's mainly what this video is going to focus about because I've talked about social anxiety in a previous video. When I can feel myself slipping in a depressive state of mind, there are always certain triggers, and these will be different for everybody, but certainly some of mine is my sleep pattern goes out the window. I will either sleep too much or sleep too little. I won't get to bed till 4-5 a.m. I will be shattered for all of the day and then not be able to sleep at night. And that was something I could see happening to myself. It was happening. I couldn't deny it. I was just hearing the birds chirp in the morning before I went to bed. That's not normal. I would become disinterested in my hobbies. I kind of stopped caring. I would do things mindlessly. I would watch TV just for the sake of watching TV. I wouldn't actually be laughing. I wouldn't be enjoying it. I wouldn't almost be taking it in. It's this numbness. Kind of start isolating yourself from people. You're less likely to reach out. You aren't necessarily going to reply to that text. You will maybe cancel plans, or even if plans get cancelled, you're kind of happy about it and then you won't rearrange them. All these little things add up and they leave you quite isolated. Then there would be the fact that some days it would be really hard for me to get out of bed. I just wouldn't want to do it. I would be lying there and be like, I know I've got this stuff to do, but I kind of just want to lie here and do nothing. That's not normal. That's not I'm just going to have like a cheeky day in bed, watch some of my favourite movies, have like a me day. No, we're not talking about that sort of mental state. We're talking about the type where you are just so overwhelmed and disinterested and bored of life that you just want to lie there. You don't want to do anything because everything feels like too much effort. Which brings me to like the final thing I noticed when my mental health's going down the toilet. I stop eating. I will go down to like one meal a day, or I'll just live off snacks, but I'll stop having breakfast, lunch, dinner. Sometimes I wouldn't eat till 4-5 p.m. Again, this is not healthy. This is not good. It goes back with the drinking. Sometimes I wouldn't drink anything, like all day. So you kind of have to figure out what your own triggers are. But for me, those are the 4 big ones. My sleep pattern gets funny, I stop eating, I stop caring about seeing friends, and I do things mindlessly. Once all those have happened, I can pretty much guarantee my mental health is in a bad spot. Sometimes you can catch these things, like if you notice one of them, you can catch early enough and sort of correct it. Other times they kind of all creep up on you, and that's what happened to me recently. And by the time I realised my mental health was bad, it was already bad. So then it's a case of how do you get yourself out of mental health? Especially if you're in a situation like me where I can't afford a therapist at the moment. I can't afford to spend a lot of money on going to therapy and all that kind of stuff because it's expensive. And I know they offer stuff at the university, but there's long waiting lists and I never find it that effective to go for 4 sessions. Sorry. I need more than 4 sessions. Instead, I have come up with coping mechanisms, and these I've come up with the help of various therapists. I haven't found these on myself. Some of them I have, some of them they've helped or suggested, some of them will work for me, some of them haven't. So I've kind of refined this list over trial and error over a couple of years. So just because these things don't work for you doesn't mean that nothing will work for you. You kind of have to try a few things. And to be honest, it tends to help to come up with these when you're not in a depressive state of mind. So the really basic ones I do is I start having showers. So whenever I feel myself getting into a bad state of mind, I'll have like long showers. I don't mean just like get in, wash your hair, wash your body, get out. I mean like long, play some music, like just sort of be in the moment showers. So I do them. And that helps me because showers are kind of my happy place. Like you're getting clean, you're listening to music, you've got nice smells normally because you've got all like the body stuff and the hair shampoo smells nice. So have a shower and just have it when you want to have it. Don't feel like, oh, but I had one earlier today. Like just have another shower. And then I listen to loud music, be this through speakers at home, play it loudly through my headphones, but I try to listen to upbeat songs. I go back to like old favourites. I don't want to be listening to Billie Eilish when I'm in a depressive state of mind. Personally, doesn't pick me back up. Instead, I go back to Busted, One Direction, Shania Twain. You want those upbeat tunes. And then I will go back to fandoms I love. I have to be careful with this because sometimes I can lose myself in fandoms and Netflix and TV shows to the point where it's almost like an escape for me. Like when I get really depressed, I escape into that. So that's why, to kind of pick me back out of it, I tend to change and go back to old favourites and do it in quite a controlled way. I realise it sounds a bit weird, but it does help me. I'll kind of stop watching what I have been watching, and that changing it up and that kind of conscious decision helps. So I go back to Harry Potter a lot. I really enjoy Harry Potter. I'll just peruse Tumblr, peruse Archive of Our Own, find a nice fic, normally again upbeatish ones, not really angsty, dark, depressing ones. We're looking for the light, humorous stories. Or I'll go back to a favourite book. So it's about finding those, for me, stories, because I love stories. I adore stories of all kinds. So it's finding those stories that are going to put me in a good state of mind and that I'm going to get excited about, because that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get myself excited, listening to, happy music, just to get myself to feel something. Preferably something positive, but even sad things sometimes can help when you're depressed, let's be honest, because you can just sometimes feel nothing. That's another thing. Get some exercise, go for a walk. I know it sounds really basic. I hate exercise, but I like a good walk. So I'll be listening to like upbeat, happy music, and I'll be walking, and you can sort of start to feel your mood changing, your mood getting a bit more positive. So I originally got this because I was like, oh, I'm going to start journaling every day. And I quickly realised that's not for me. Most of the pages are full. I have about 3 left. And it quickly became the thing I turn to when I'm in a bad head state. So often it gets written in late at night when I can't sleep and there'll be thoughts buzzing around my head, and I just chuck them down in here. And I find that really helps. So this is not a cute journal I'm going to look back on in 10 years time, like, oh, look at the amazing things I was doing. Because it's kind of filled with my darkest thoughts. But it's sometimes good to get them out on paper, because sometimes getting them out in that way sort of gets them out of your mind. It allows you to think things through rationally. It stops them whirling through your head. So I find that quite useful. Yeah, do I do anything else? It sounds really simple when you put it out loud. Those things combined help me. So I'd say the final extra thing I do is A, be kind to yourself. It sounds so basic, but we are so mean to ourselves. Like our inner voice, we talk to ourselves how we would never talk to another human being, let alone one we in theory liked and want to spend the rest of our life with, because that's what you're doing with yourself. You're going to spend the rest of your life with yourself, so you may as well start liking yourself, because it's you and it, or you and them, or whatever, forever. So be kind to yourself. Talk to yourself like you talk to your best friend. If your best friend came to you and said, oh, I really messed up that test, I feel so silly, like I did so bad, I'm not good at anything, you wouldn't say, yes you are, you're so stupid, why did you think you could do this? You would say, don't be ridiculous, you're amazing, you've got this, I bet you did that better than you think, come on, let's go get coffee, let's just think about something else, let's not stress about it, it's not happened yet, you've probably done okay. Actively talk to yourself like you would talk to your best friend. Big yourself up. Be your best spokesperson. You've got to believe in yourself. That's people who have this confidence and this inner belief. Most of them probably didn't wake up naturally with it. They worked on it. They told themselves they were amazing. Be kind to yourself. Please, 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 please be kind to yourself. And talk to yourself like you would talk to your best friend. That's the way I think about it. And I'm going to go now because I think I'm getting hay fever. My eyes are like stinging like crazy and I feel like I'm sneezing. But I really hope this video has helped somebody. It's just short, sweet, mental health while doing a PhD. I mean, these can be applied for other stuff as well, really. It's just in PhD and academia, there's a higher chance. But yeah, so that's everything. And I'll see you next time. Bye.